So, why would anyone want to learn about the Unix shell? What could we possibly use it for? Under what circumstances might we find it useful? Well, I can imagine that most of the people listening to this course will fall into one of the following three categories. Perhaps you are using a version of Unix at work or at home or at school. Perhaps you might be using Linux, which is a popular free PC version of Unix. And perhaps you've heard about the many Unix command line programs available. In order to use them, you have to master the Unix shell. Mastering the Unix shell and gaining a familiarity with such programs will make your Unix experience more profitable and enjoyable. Secondly, you may need to connect to a Unix computer across the internet. Perhaps you have a website that you need to manage, and the only way that you can manage it is by connecting to a computer across the internet and logging in using a program such as Telnet. When you log into a computer across the internet using Telnet, you're almost always presented with a Unix shell, and the only way in which you can manipulate your website is to use Unix commands. You may also wish to connect to perhaps your university's computer or your company's computer, again via the internet and via a Telnet and Unix shell interface. Finally, you might have purchased this particular course because you need to learn either Unix system administration or web-based CGI programming. Both of these topics require a fairly intimate knowledge of the Unix shell. The Unix shell is powerful enough to be used as a programming language for both such purposes. So this course may be a stepping stone to the more advanced topic of shell script programming. So, what are the prerequisites for this course? Well, none really. There is no prior knowledge of Unix or Unix shell commands assumed. It would help if you had some familiarity with a command line interface, such as DOS. If you've used a command line system before, you will find the Unix command line particularly easy to adopt to, but if you have not, don't worry, the basics are quite simple and quite easy to pick up. If you have not used a command line interface before, you're probably more familiar with mouse-based, icon-based point-and-click interfaces such as Windows or the Macintosh, or perhaps even X Windows. You would therefore be unfamiliar with the notion of typing the name of a command in order to run it, as opposed to clicking on its icon. But happily, that is about the only skill that you're going to have to master for this particular course. The rest will be explained in some considerable depth. The first chapter, or rather the second chapter after this introduction, is a bit of background on Unix itself.